Now, Dan, are you ready to sing?
No.
Okay, well, I'll be your backup. I'm excited to welcome Dan Snyder, the VP of Product Management at Zego. Thank you, Dan.
We're going to talk about market overview and industry trends, why resident experience matters, acquisition as well as retention, how data is the link between process and outcome, or practice and outcome, and then scaling to build more vibrant and profitable communities. First, I'm going to tell you a little about myself. I lead product at Zego. I've worked with a bunch of different companies, different stages. I've been in this industry for a little under 3 years. I love it. I love where Zego sits right in the middle. It's a B2B2C. So I'm able to kind of help build those experiences for both the residents and the PMs. And that's really what I'm passionate about, data and experiences and building great solutions. So that is really what I'm here to talk about. Let's first talk about millennials. They are the renters market right now. 60% of renters are millennials. That's only going to continue to tick up. Why is that? Market forces and demographic attributes. Market forces, quite frankly, it's a very competitive housing market. I don't need to tell a room of real estate people that it's hard, there's low supply, and it's very expensive. I happen to get in before then, and we probably will talk a little bit about that, but I'm lucky there. Additionally, rising cost of living. Year over year, 17% rent price growth makes it even more hard for people to get out of renting and buy. Additionally, people, like I was before I had kids, they wanted to be able to walk around in a neighborhood. Pretty typical in metropolitan areas. And then they want to enjoy maintenance-free living. They don't want to have to worry about the HVAC unit or the fridge that went on the fritz 6 months after I bought my house. Real scenario, still hurts. But with that sort of modern renter preference or sort of profile, there are different preferences. So self-service convenience, and that makes sense. Think about Uber. I can click a button, car's here immediately. If I got a problem, I can self-service my way out of it with support. They're going to give me $10 for the next ride. When you look at sort of the renter's preferences, the top one's near and dear to my heart since Zego does a significant amount of online payments. But that's commoditized. That is table stakes at this point. These next two areas on the bottom, mobile maintenance requests and digital package notifications, that's the up and coming, but it's already becoming close to 75% of renters want it. If you don't have it, you're missing out. And you're missing out on exactly what these residents want. So by and large, the top companies out there are investing in resident experience innovations, whether that's unique amenities, emerging technologies, your property management software. All of that is designed to create a great resident experience and hopefully avoid the dreaded turnover. Last year, Zego ran the first ever State of Resident Experience Management report. We surveyed 700 PMs and got to this amount, stepping up on that ladder to a total cost of turnover of $3,850. It takes 15 months to recoup that. We'll be releasing the 2022 version of this, but I can tell you, even with the hot rental market and the soaring prices, it's the same amount for turnover. So really focusing on what you can do by building a resident experience to keep your resident in unit. But it doesn't just go as far as the residents in your property. While you want them to have a great experience, they're going to tell their friends, they're going to rate, they're going to review. That's just common sense, especially for millennials like me. I like sharing everything, especially about my fridge for some reason. But the stats also prove it. 98% of apartment shoppers rely on the ratings and reviews. 79% won't even see something if there's not favorable reviews. I was thinking about yesterday, I live in Chicago, we've got good avocado toast. This is LA, they got better avocado toast. I wanted it for lunch, looked at Yelp, 240 different places within a 2-mile radius of my hotel. That's absurd. I didn't know where to go. Looked across the street, there's a place, Yelp told me it was a 3.2 out of 5. Ended up 1 block away, Javista, I think it's called, it was amazing, $10, great avocado toast. Well, the reason I bring that up is that was a very small reason for me to look at Yelp. This is a 12-month contract or more that I'm signing for thousands of dollars. People rely on reviews that are coming from people who live there, and those directly impact people moving in. So I've tried to just very high level lay the groundwork of why resident experience matters. To us, it's an essential driver for prospect and resident lifecycle. The more investment you're making and optimizing creates a vicious cycle, a virtuous cycle, not vicious, virtuous cycle of resident retention and renter attraction. So when you get a resident experience software, there's a lot that comes with that. But the most important thing, the thing I am definitely here to talk about is data. Data, data, data. Who, what, where, when, how are your residents and your staff engaging? For the first item, how are your residents engaging? How are they enjoying their stay at your property? How are they building that sense of community? Second, what properties are doing well compared? Who's doing what right? Sort of comparing and contrasting across your portfolio. And then last but not least, how are you building that great experience from move-in and day to day to keep that resident happy and in that unit? The top 3 retention drivers, as quoted by Apartment Life, are sense of community, communication and responsiveness, and satisfaction with maintenance. I hope that resonates with everybody. It definitely did with me, and not just because I built this slide. Sense of community, the friendship factor, increases your likelihood by 38%. Knowing the people you live around, liking them, will make you want to stay in your community. Communication and responsiveness. 92% of residents prefer interactions via digital channels, not a phone call, not really even email. And last, satisfaction with maintenance. 43% of residents rent for maintenance-free living. They don't want to deal with the costs of the HVAC unit and the fridge. I can tell you how much it costs. They don't want to deal with it. So what we're going to do over the next 6 slides is talk about 3 practical examples of each one of these, just to share some of our experience and what we've been able to accomplish with our clients. First one is the least attractive feature that most resident experience management softwares have, the bulletin board. Simply put, I need a dog walker, I need somebody to look for looking for a babysitter for 4 to 6 months. I've got a couch, anybody want it? Anyone want to go for a run? But shockingly, this feature has a ton of community building behind it. The case that we're going to talk about here is of a skeptical client, a client that in 18 and 19 had a 60% retention, which was awesome, but they were looking to increase that based on survey results that said they needed to build a better sense of community. The survey results coming directly from their clients, or their residents. So we said, you need to use the bulletin board. They said no. They said, we'll roll it out, but we don't really care about it. What's this going to do for us? So what we did is said, trust us. One property. Push it. Push it to your residents in-app, via text, email, chat, whatever kind of communication you can think of, and post content on a regularly scheduled cadence, just like social media drops. We saw pretty good results from that. So on the left, you'll see where it was I think 20 or so properties where there was no bulletin board promotion whatsoever. Organically, there's some usage. There's 8 posts per month. That's great. People are finding it naturally. They've got a resident experience app for the first time. Adoption's actually pretty high at 76%, and retention saw an uptick. Great. Like, you're happy with that, probably, but you can do better. And especially if you're trying to build that sense of community. On the right is the one property that really went hard with posts. Some of those are from the property, a lot are from residents, and you can see almost a hockey stick in terms of interactions and messages. App adoption was 94%. At this community, if you wanted to know what was going on, you had to download the app, and retention also skyrocketed. Keep in mind, this is 2020. When you see somebody in your community in the elevator, you were waiting for the next elevator. This was the only way to interact with the other residents, and that was part of where digitally you could build that community for the first time ever. One quote that I love from this property is someone that I interviewed personally, and this is not exactly word for word, but she was new to the city. She found people that wanted to go running with her, that felt safe about it at the beginning of COVID, and she ended up becoming really good friends with them, moving into a 2-bedroom with them, going around the city, trying new food, and they're pretty much lifelong friends, all because of bulletin board. But it can show you what just that little push of one feature helps build that sense of community and then has the uptick on retention. The next two examples we're going to talk about are more compare and contrast, pre-resident app, post-resident app. So pre-resident app, this client, let's just say they weren't great with communication. People were pretty upset. I send something over to my property manager, the on-site staff, I maybe hear back. Really leads to not asking quick, short questions, especially when, generally speaking, I'm at work, when the property staff's there. So what we did with them and what we did with the next example is we benchmark results. We said, how satisfied are your residents right now? What's the response time? How many messages are you getting? And then we communicated across properties, rolled this out, and said, let's check results. So more on the before and after. This is from a 250 unit building, 850 bidirectional messages. That's 3 mass communications and 100 responses. Quite frankly, that's abysmal. That means you're basically not communicating with your staff. Response time of 1.3, and we ran an NPS-like survey. There was a negative 12 NPS. That's really, really bad. You can imagine that as a direct correlation to the ratings and reviews that everybody's seeing out there when they're making their decision of where they're going to move. So after app adoption, after 6 months, bidirectional emails or messages skyrocketed, response time cut down by 91%, and a 29% increase in NPS, a 29-point increase. The cool thing is, a lot more messages, no more work. This isn't, I need to write a tailored response email. It's 40% of those were less than 2 sentences. It was basically like you were just texting somebody back. Unrelated, but related to communication responsiveness in general, is a case study we ran with one of our clients that really hammers down this point that to get in front of residents, especially around move-in, and show there's a partnership between the property management company and the renter, it's been amazing as far as communication, retention, and feedback. We could see the increase in satisfaction, and we know that people are getting answers to a lot more of their questions. They're feeling more comfortable. Last but not least, satisfaction with maintenance. It's that third retention driver. This one drove me crazy when I lived in a multifamily community. I don't know why, but my sink never worked, and the disposal definitely didn't. So we worked with this company quite simply to just optimize the entire flow, allow residents to the convenience of submitting a mobile maintenance request, and because some of this was during COVID, we actually helped develop self-service video tutorials and linked out to YouTube videos. When people say they want maintenance-free living, that doesn't necessarily mean they're not willing to roll up their sleeves and fix something, especially if it means somebody isn't coming into their apartment. But it means they don't want to pay for it more than anything. So similar sort of before and after, managed requests, kind of generic number, 1.5 days for a first response time. That is terrible. And 4.3 days for resolution. And I don't have the exact number, but somewhere in between, the maintenance worker came in, realized they didn't have everything they needed, and they came back 2 days later. And what we did, and what we saw by bringing in the app, is a 1.7 hour first response time and a lot of communication back and forth. It went from, I'm gonna come in and see what's going on and maybe nothing's wrong, to I'm gonna help you, like tech support, debug the issue, figure out if you can fix it on your own. And if you can, which you saw in 30% of the cases, actually resolved by the resident. And this property didn't actually give incentives for that, but we've seen other properties and we've recommended, hey, if the resident solves their issue, maybe give them, a $5 Starbucks gift card. That's gonna be, a help for you as well. But you can clearly see the resident satisfaction increase. And this just, maintenance, people are very upset, and just to see the fact that we could see such a positive satisfaction increase just by bringing in a digital process and trying to help people self-service. Again, you think about the renter preferences, convenience, self-service. We did that here. And a quote from one of our clients is really interesting, especially in like the great resignation that we're kind of seeing right now, right? With mobile doorman, we've started seeing residents actually writing, this is great, after a maintenance request. When we share that with the maintenance team, it's an engagement driver. It motivates them. People appreciate their work. Hopefully you're keeping those people around, not only the residents, but also the staff as well. So I shared these 3 examples, and they all follow the same sort of pattern. Identify your key drivers, act, optimize results. And what I mean by the first one, you can kind of see, we identified a few levers that we knew were going to help with that sort of sense of community for the bulletin board. Again, although it's kind of like really the bulletin board, it made that impact. And you could see when you compare it across communities that the difference in retention. They've rolled that out across their entire portfolio. They have seen an increase in retention across every property. Not as massive as that one, might be an outlier, but either way, they brought that, they figured out what the optimal mix of services and amenities are, and then they leveraged those learnings across their portfolio. This is data. If you look at it once, all you're doing is, it's just numbers. But the key to it is to predict adoption trends, set KPIs, test, iterate, measure, iterate, test, any order you want. Make sure you're continuing to learn and improve from that. And that is really all I'm here to talk about, because we believe and we've seen that following this methodology and the 3 examples we showed directly relate to a noticeably significant increase in NOI. So yeah, the one last slide, because marketing asked me to. Our most recent version is coming out in May for the State of Resident Experience Management with updated information, especially with the changes that have happened in the rental market. So QR code here, we made it really big. If you can't scan it, like shame on you. Yeah, no, thanks for your time. I think I have like a minute left if anybody has any questions.